Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. Today we have an awesome review for you that's really been a long time coming. This is the new Doug Ritter Mini-RSK G2 for Generation 2. You can see I have the Generation 1 below, which used to be a Benchmade product. But basically, once their contract expired, Benchmade was just like, hey, we're not going to make these anymore, which gave Doug Ritter a chance to look elsewhere, and he landed with Hogue Knives, which is an all-American business established back in 1968. They're really well known within the firearm community, and they've been making knives for about the past 10 years. Their market segment, of course, is that high-value, high-quality American-made product segment, and I think they do a great job with that. Now, as far as the type of knife, I'd categorize this as your EDC folding utility knife. You, of course, some key common characteristics in design language. You're going to want something that's within that pocketable size with a very versatile blade, which the Doug Ritter definitely does. The RSK is such a great blade. As you can see, I spent a pretty penny modifying my original Ritter Mini Grip with some very expensive scales and whatnot, even the clip once I flip the knives over. So that's how good of a blade it is. It really warrants some specialness, and I think now finally out of the box it comes with a very, very capable package that equals not just that refined blade shape, the execution. I mean, even that secondary bevel is much nicer than on the Benchmade. So they've really improved this model in so many ways, and I think they've come out with something that is extremely special. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look. Okay guys, now before we get into the full review, quick wristwatch check. I'm wearing the Raven Solitude on this recently reviewed Hirsch John strap, which is leather, rubber, which is really, really nice. Check the review, of course. Definitely check the channel history. I think this is a pretty decent pairing because Raven is actually an American run brand, and you know, of course, they really specialize in that military kind of outdoor aesthetic. And then the nice thing is I'm actually waiting for a drop tomorrow on knife release, so it's happening East Coast time. So the nice thing is I actually have it set, my 12-hour bezel, super useful even when not traveling. So basically right now it's you know, I can see basically in the East Coast time it's almost 2 a.m. versus right now for me it's almost 11 p.m. So really cool from that standpoint. But that's what's flopping around on my wrist during this review. Now, the Hogue Ritter, man, the Benchmade Mini Grip. I've done videos where it's just like highlighting why I love this knife, and this is kind of the pinnacle of the design, and it was the Ritter version. M390, you got that lovely kind of leaf-shaped blade. This thing started out, the whole Doug Ritter thing started out as an upgraded version of the Mini Grip. And it was upgraded in that, you know, you got that high flat grind for cutting edge. And then you have that kind of, I should say cutting ease. And then you have great strength. And then it just, that grind makes for excellent slicing geometry. It's just a beautifully done blade shape, just really well thought out. And now, finally, they have the mini version from the Hogue line, and man, this thing is gorgeous as well. No longer M390, but now 20 CV, so now it even has an American steel. 20 CV and M390, for those of you that don't know, are pretty much chemically almost the same. They're just manufactured by different brands. So as far as like chemically, they're very similar, but the brand wise, you know, Bowler is a European brand versus an American brand that's doing 20 CV. Crucible. So with all that said, this is of course a Doug Ritter Mini-RSK Mark 1 G2, as in Generation 2. These are amazing when it comes to the value, guys. Let me pop this off here temporarily just for camera focus. These the MSRP for these is $204.95, and that is a screaming deal. But they're actually a KnifeWorks exclusive, and they go for $139.95. That's insane. That is just $10 more than the original Ritter Mini Grip was going for, and that was God knows how many years ago. So needless to say, this price point is just punching with the spec as well, is just destroying anything similarly spec'd from Benchmade. It's just that simple. The action is amazing. I didn't even have to break this one in. It does use phosphor bronze washers, but this thing's dialed in, man. Look at that. I have this ritual where typically what I'll do is I'll actually take it and just kind of do this, and if I have washers in there, it'll kind of give them like an internal polish as I wear things. I didn't have to do that. This thing was just automatically just beautifully smooth, beautiful drop shut, great detent, and bam, just locks into place. No play whatsoever, perfectly centered, and just beautifully done from that aspect. But let's take a look at, look at that secondary bevel. Look how finely done that is. Okay, now look at the Benchmade, which is a great working edge, but you can see there's some grind lines there. It's a lot rougher, and it's beautifully done. Don't get me wrong. It's a working finish. Of course, they still both have that. You know, on the majority of the blade, you have that nice stone wash, which is beautiful and actually is quite perfect for a working edge. The way that they're etched is actually a little bit different. If you notice, here the Doug Ritter is pretty much always visible, where this one actually like can disappear in the light, which I think this one is more like this one is like printed on, it feels like, and this is like etched in. So I think that's the difference. Then you'll even see that on, look at how the branding can disappear. Look at that. So for those of you that don't like billboarding, Hogue really did some magic for you guys, and this thing's gonna look stripped when it comes to you know, any type of logo when it's in the right lighting. Here, a shout out to Lynch Clips and Wilkins Grips, because they pretty much helped me create my perfect pocket knife. And this thing's nice, guys, but I spent way too much money on this, right? So a knife that was basically 130 bucks, you know, you add these expensive scales, expensive clip, it gets up there in price total. Actually, to the point to where Wilkins isn't even making these grips anymore, because he understands the market just isn't there for them. So here now you're getting, which is really nice, you're getting this beautiful, really sharply done G10 with all these contours, beautifully done. And I really can't say enough. I mean, it's almost to the point to where it's kind of sharp. Just in this portion right here, there's like the extra grip. Then here, this is actually pretty nice just in general to grip with. As you can see, reverse works nice. It's the perfect length. You know, everything's dialed in. As far as comparable, if you want to compare like the jimping, I'd say the jimping's a little bit softer on the Hogue versus the original Benchmade model, but you know, but then I'd say the jimping here is actually better than when you compare it to, let's say, this 20 CV mini grip. Now look at the G10, look at how much more work's gone into this G10 versus this one's a lot smoother. It has kind of a medium grip here. This has the high grip, and then everything else is medium grip with like nothing slick on it. And then when you feel the jimping here, I'd say, I think this might be a little bit more effective feeling. Then there's no jimping down there, but you do have some nice flats. So I think it still locks in quite nice. This is a 20 CV blade. I'm pretty sure these actually got discontinued. It's only slightly modified compared to this one. I just did blued thumb studs and then put the smaller Benchmade clip that was from the bug out, but that's a comparable. And then as far as like G10 goes, right, here's the and 20 CV from Benchmade. This is limited, as you can see, number 940 out of 2,000. So these are all sold out. They're all gone. G10 again, and 20 CV much different price point. The obviously completely unavailable now. Even kind of similar blades when you look at that. I never really noticed how much there was some commonalities between the Bug Out, of course, and then and the Doug Ritter. They actually do have pretty similar blade shapes, minus that swedge up top, but they actually do have pretty similar silhouettes. And then when it comes to G10, of course, yeah, this one's a little fancy looking, but when it comes to the machining and whatnot, you can see there, quality wise, the Hogue is up there. But one that kind of stood out as, I think, a comparable, once Benchmade didn't renew with Doug Ritter, they came out with this thing called the Freak, and then they did the Mini Freak. And for me, this was kind of my fill-in space for the RSK while it wasn't out. This was kind of a nice beater. I actually put on some aftermarket scales that are G10, deep pocket clip, whatnot. You can see I picked up one of the early models, and man, this thing has been trouble for me from Benchmade. Of course, when it comes to QC, unfortunately, this thing is actually longer than most other Mini Freaks, so I bought some other scales, and they didn't even fit because the tip stuck out too far because there was that much production variance, which was an absolute shame. But look at that bevel, right, versus this bevel. And I haven't stropped either of these guys, but look at the sharp, look at that rough, grainy texture on that cutting edge versus here. It's little details like that you might not notice, that reviewers might never even cover, but man, that makes an absolute world of difference. Even look at the basic little wash on here. You can still see so much grind work, but then here the wash is just super nice. Super well done. So these are actually pretty comparable. Of course, I did have to buy aftermarket scales to get the G10, but then this is S30V versus 20CV. I mean, 20CV is going to be superior to S30. There's nothing wrong with S30, but I mean, it's basically, hey, this is B+ grade, this is A grade. So, and maybe calling it B+ is being a little bit too nice. But as you can see, they're very similar in silhouette and whatnot. This one feels probably a little bit lighter because they really went with the minimalized liners inside, which is something that they also did here. There's a little bit more liner, I'd say, as far as the metal, because you can see where the screw comes down to. But compared to the original, to the Mini Grip, you can see this goes all the way down. This is which makes it a much heavier little knife, which is good in some ways, but oh man, this thing is so nice. I mean, even with gloves, this just has such a great, just tactile, you just lock in. This thing has got grip. So really beautifully done. I'm loving the grasp, the grip, the action on it. This thing is absolute butter out of the box. I'm blown away that I didn't have to play with pivot. I didn't have to dial anything in. Right out of the box, this thing was just absolute butter. And does it stand up? I think hell yeah it does. I mean, it's funny because there's actually an S90V version with carbon fiber scales that's coming out for the Mini Freak, but it's like $130 more than this. And that's for S90 with carbon fiber. But here, I think some people even prefer, I think, 20CV over S90 just for kind of the ease of sharpening in comparison. So I think that's pretty outstanding. And then even the clip, guys. So I want you to see something here. Okay, we'll move these kind of more factory Benchmades out of here. And I want you to look at this clip versus this Casey Lynch clip. So Casey Lynch, Lynch Northwest, they make some of the best aftermarket clips in the business. And this thing is outstanding. It's an older model that was actually kind of a brushed finish, brush polish finish that I actually kind of did a home DIY stonewash on. I bought like a plastic jar and a bunch of stones, and I just shook it up until the finish looked similar to the blade, and they had a little bit of a match going. But you can see the design. This guy, his bread and butter is making clips and making good clips. Look at the clip similarities from what you just get out of the box from Hogue and Doug Ritter. You're getting out of the box, you're getting this excellent deep carry clip that just works fantastically, looks great, super solidly built, and oh yeah, it's probably even has the same hole pattern, and I could probably even swap it out if I wanted to. You know, I could put another aftermarket clip on here or something, but I think this one just came out really nice. I think maybe it would have been nice if they would have used black hardware here, maybe even a blacked out clip. And the crazy thing is, if you buy the orange one, it actually comes with a blacked out clip and black. So I feel like they could have probably saved some money and just blacked everything out. Versus the contrast, but I think the contrast here, it makes it a little bit more of kind of a little bit of a balance as far as kind of almost a gentlemanly look to it, and it just dresses it up just a hair. I mean, this obviously I don't think is some like gorgeous gentleman's knife by any means, but man, this is a cutter. This is something that you know, when it comes to hey, something's hitting the fan and I need to grab a small, lightweight, pocketable knife, there's no reason to pick anything else but this. I mean, sure, you can pick something bigger, you can pick something for a lot of other reasons. When it comes to usable EDC blade, this blade shape and this execution is absolutely, you know, it's the business, guys. I love this thing. I'm so happy with it. I'm so glad that Doug Ritter was able to fund the Mini RSK after the RSK. The full size got so much love in the Hogue version. This thing is just, it's beautiful. It's great. You also do get the matching thumb stud, matching the able lock there. As far as size-wise goes, you guys saw at the beginning of the video, this thing is very nice. Blade length just a hair under 3 inches, so it's going to be legal in a lot of places. The full-size length is under 7 inches, so very nice, unthreatening, and then with that belly, it doesn't look super stabby. It's not something that's going to scare people. And the weight, only 2.6 ounces. This thing is really light, and part of that is because they used G10, so they didn't have to have a full steel liner that goes all the way down. They just kind of have a little strip for stability, and you know, obviously have great lineup, great lockup. This thing is beautiful. As far as comparable options go, we kind of saw them earlier flashing over as far as size comparisons and even comparisons to kind of looks wise, and yeah, there's some Benchmade options. I'd say I compare it to Benchmade the most because it's using this able lock, which is basically like a beefed up access lock. It even has nicer Omega springs, so that's how similar it is. And of course, it's still American made, so it's not like you're getting some knockoff version of something that came from the past. This is something that I feel like Benchmade kind of almost was kind of dirty almost by coming out with the Freak, and it's just like, hey Doug, like, we're not going to renew our contract, but we're going to put something out into the market that's very, very similar to something that you've been making that clearly has a huge following. So, you know, bottom line, guys, Return of the King right here. This thing is the king of functional, usable, everyday EDC, and it belongs in everybody's pockets. Get them while you can, guys. Let me tell you, it was painful waiting to have something else to fill this space and to kind of have fun with and collect and have something that could almost be a beater. You know, a real user, because, you know, this thing is just too nice to really beat to death, to take camping or something like that. But, you know, it's not this guy right here. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.